Hi there. This is a video at the request of a couple of students who were wanting to see the hand trick explained again. A hand trick that allows or helps us to identify cosine and sine for unit circle. Obviously, another resource you would have would be your AMA peers who learned this and utilized this within the context of their AMA class. So if you were wanting to hear a different explanation, they might have a way that potentially made a little bit more sense to you. So they would be another resource that I would potentially tap if I were in your shoes trying to get the unit circle down in preparation for your AP test. So anyway, here's the unit circle here, and I've whited out all of the angles because I want to fill them in as we talk about them. A couple of reminders. So axes angles, you definitely need to know those. We've been looking at those a lot. So we have 1, 0 for our 0 angle. Pi over 2, which would be up here, would be 0, 1. We have -1, 0 for pi, and 0, -1 for 3 pi over 2, right? And then a reminder in terms of signs, you have all students take calculus, so all are positive in the first quadrant, sine, cosine, tangent. So students, so sine is positive in the second quadrant over here, take, tangent is positive in the third quadrant, calculus, cosine is positive in the fourth quadrant down here. So just a reminder of signs. Okay, but when it comes to the angles, okay, we're going to be looking here at the first quadrant, and your hand becomes a mirror of the first quadrant, right? So here's my hand. I can see that my pinky here is going to be the 0 radian angle, right? Zero over here. We have our pi over 6, which is going to be my ring finger here. My middle finger is going to be pi over 4. My pointer finger is going to be pi over 3, and my thumb here is going to be pi over 2. So my hand, my left hand, mirrors the first quadrant when I'm looking at it. Okay? And then we're going to turn down a finger corresponding to the angle we are concerned with, right? Reminder, cosine always comes first, then sine, alphabetical order. So the same thing's going to be true on my hand. Right, when I'm looking at this side of my hand, the left part after I turn down a finger, that's going to be the cosine side. The sine then is going to be the right hand side, right? Cosine, sine, always alphabetical order. Cosine's always going to come first. Sine is always going to come second. Okay? And then when you're looking at it, the technical equation is going to be I'm going to write it down here, square root of the fingers that you see being held up over 2. Now hopefully you can get to the point that you're faster just kind of looking at it, and you aren't really going to need to know, like, you know, the square root of fingers over 2, but technically that's where these come from. Okay, so for pi over 6, this first one here, which corresponds to my ring finger, if I was wanting to know cosine and sine of pi over 6, I'd take my ring finger, I'd fold it down, and I can now see that cosine is this 3 over here, and sine is the 1. And so my cosine is going to be root 3 over 2, and sine is going to be 1/2. Okay, that's for pi over 6 there. Cosine is root 3 over 2, right? Root fingers over 2, and then 1/2, root 1 over 2. Root fingers over 2. Okay, pi over 4, which is my middle finger here, right? Pi over 4. So I'm going to turn down my middle finger. Okay, and so we've got our cosine, sine. My cosine is root 2 over 2, and my sine is root 2 over 2, right? And that makes sense, right? For pi over 4, you have your root 2 over 2, and your root 2 over 2 cosine and sine are the same thing. And then you have your pi over 3. Pi over 3, which is this top angle here, is going to be your pointer finger. If you take your pointer finger and you turn it down, you see 1 and 3. And so your cosine is going to be root 1 over 2, or 1/2, and your sine is going to be root 3 over 2. And there's your hand trick.